Hi, I'm Brian King, and this is Winning Wednesday. Today's topic is different needs. And on Monday, I talked about how it is super important that we accept each other's differences. But that's just the start. We also need to learn that our needs are different. Now, we both have a lot of common needs, and it's not that we don't have the same needs, it's how we prioritize them. And we need to learn what our wives' top needs are, and we need to communicate to them what our top needs are. I mean, we all have the same needs overall. It's not like we're working from two different lists and they're two totally different things. It's just in how we prioritize them. So we've got some learning to do. Like I said on Monday, it's super important to accept the differences. And in order to accept them, you need to know what they are. I started talking a little bit about how, the top needs for a man and woman are different. And you can't just, look at your wife and say, yep, she's different, all right. That's not going to cut it. You need to put some effort in, figure out what those differences are, and then communicate to her what you need, and then listen to her and communicate with her and find out what she needs. Let's get into some details here. The problem happens, if you try to meet your wife's need by giving her what you need, you miss a very important key, and you won't have a winning marriage. Truth is, men and women share many of the same needs, but the difference is in the ranking. If you pour all your effort into meeting a need that's low on her list, while you're ignoring one of her top needs, you're going to end up frustrated. And you'll feel like she's unpleasable, because even though you're putting hard work in, her deepest need is still unmet. So let's start with the men. You need to communicate to her what your top needs are. Well, what are your top needs? In a very general way, and you can break down your list, and you can compare it to her list. Sit down and talk about what are the most important things to you, and in general and in a common way for men, the number one need is respect. We just crave that. We need it. And your wife has the need for respect too. It's not like you want to disrespect her, but it's not as high on her list. And she probably doesn't know that it's super important to you. And how does that play out? Well, I have noticed that, when we've had disagreements, my wife has said things to me that if a man said them to me, we would be in a fist fight. And she doesn't even realize that she was being that disrespectful. And I had to learn that she is not trying to be disrespectful. It's just not her top need. She doesn't recognize it. She can talk to a woman like that, and there are no consequences. But when she tries to talk to a man like that, she doesn't understand why we get angry, why we have a problem. And it's not that she's trying to be disrespectful. She's just not knowing what your top need is. So you can communicate that to her when you're not fighting. Don't try to explain it to her while you're feeling disrespected, but just explain to her how important that need is. Number two need for men is sex. It's usually pretty high on our list. It's not that it's not on a woman's list. They need sex too, but it's not as important. So when she ignores your advance or isn't interested, she's not rejecting you. She's just saying she doesn't feel that need at that time. And if you know that and understand that, it's easier to not feel rejected when it's not going to work out tonight. You know what I mean? And when we understand that she's not ignoring you and, rejecting you. She just doesn't know that it's as big of a need. And again, we can communicate that to her. And once she knows that it's a bigger need, she can respond to that. Women, one of their top needs, at least for my wife, love is probably her top need. And what I mean by that is she needs to know that I'm really there for her and that I'm not just using her to get my needs met, but that I actually love her. And I really have to express that consistently and constantly, and not in a insincere way. I need to be sincere about expressing my love to her. And when I do, she responds, and it goes better. She's happy. Not my top need. I can go, it's not that I don't need to be loved, but I'd rather be respected than to know that it's just, I want to be loved too, but my top need is respect. For her, it's love in general. Another need for her is security. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to make sure she's 100% taken care of and everything's fine. I mean, when we were building the house, she lived in a camper with me. Not probably the most secure environment that you could live in, but she knew that we were moving in a good direction, that we were building a house, that we were going to have a yard, and that we were going to raise kids. And she just knew where we were going, and she felt secure in that. I had a decent job, and we were growing. So she was willing to put up with not having that need completely met because we communicated about it and we knew where we were going. Speaking of communicating, her top need, number 3, is communication. So important. She needs to know that you're there, that you understand her, that you listen, that you care about what she's saying and want to know how she's thinking. And one of the things I found out relatively early in our marriage was that communication for her was an aphrodisiac. If we talked, I got my needs met, and it really worked out good. And I mean, you can't just say, honey, let's talk, and then expect sex. It's got to be organic. It's got to be, part of who you are. You just have to learn to communicate with your wife. All of these things require work. Like I said, you can't just say, well, I'm going to accept the differences. Yep, she's different, all right. No, you need to find out what the differences are, and then act like, you've got to respond to them. If you know that she needs communication, then you need to stretch and communicate. If you know that she needs love, then you need to stretch and be more loving. If you know that she needs security, you're going to have to sit down and, and tell her the plan, tell her what's going on, tell her that everything's going to be okay, and work with her on that. And if you feel like she doesn't understand your needs, then you need to explain them to her in a way that she can understand. You've got to communicate. So here's the takeaway. If you only give her what your top needs are, you're going to run into problems. But if you take the time to study your wife, find out what's most important to her, and it's going to vary. There are things that we haven't even talked about that are probably top needs for her, and you need to find those out. Study her, figure out what they are, and then go about providing them. When we first got married, I kind of pictured that I was going to be spending a lot of time meeting my wife's needs, and I also expected that she was going to be spending a lot of time meeting my needs. And as long as you don't get lost in that, and forget that that's part of the plan of being married, that you're going to meet each other's needs, then when you learn to do it consistently, you can have a winning marriage. And you'll see huge wins if you just take the time to figure out what those top needs are, accept the fact that they're different than your top needs. And the bottom line is, you don't want to just work harder. You want to work smarter, and you want to focus on what really matters most to her. You can do it. And for me, this was probably one of the biggest things, because I had no idea that she had different needs. I figured everybody's pretty much the same, and what I need is what she needs. And I went about trying to meet her needs by giving her what I needed. And it's not that it didn't work, it was just hard. And I had to find out, we had to communicate, we had to put the effort in. But once I found out, what she needed, and I started providing it, that's when I got my needs met more fully. So like I said, the bottom line is, don't work harder, work smarter. And when you put that effort in, it becomes much, much easier. So that's it for today. Hope you're winning in your marriage. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting anything out of this. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.